Okay, guys, welcome to this orientation session of the AFM for the June 2022 examination session. This is Luqman Rafiq. I have been in teaching profession for more than 13 years now, teaching the various courses including financial reporting, financial management, auditing, and the performance management. Our agenda for today's session is we shall be discussing about the paper AFM. We shall be discussing the contents of the AFM syllabus. Plus, in addition to this, we will be discussing about the teaching methodology that we as an institution adopt and the teaching methodology that I am going to adopt while I'll be delivering this specific session. So in front of me is the syllabus for the AFM for the June 2022. I am actually going to take you people through this AFM syllabus. But before I go on to this AFM syllabus, I always go through a relational diagram for any specific paper that I teach. Now, what does this relational diagram actually tells us? This relational diagram actually tells us the connection that this paper has with the other papers. So let's have a discussion about each one of the relation, each one of the connection that this paper has with the other papers. You could see that there is this connection with the management accounting, which we also call F2. Then the connection with the financial management, which we call F9. And there is this connection with the SBL also. That's a very interesting connection. That's a very interesting connection because when we talk about advanced financial management, every one of you understands this connection, the connection of F9 and the AFM. But to understand the connection of SBL and AFM, we would actually come on to it and I'll explain to you that how are these SBL and AFM connected. One thing that I would like to tell you is that even if you have not studied SBL, you can still manage this connection. You can still manage this connection even if you have not studied the SBL. You could still manage this connection between SBL and AFM. That is something that you could do. Now, let's just start off. Let's just start discussing about it. That what exactly is this AFM paper all about? So what I would actually like to do is that I would like to talk about the main capabilities that are actually there with respect to AFM so that we could have a detailed discussion that what are the syllabus components, how exactly are we going to handle them, and what is their examination weightage. You could see that there are multiple portions of the syllabus, but the core area of the syllabus is these four sections. The core area of this syllabus is these four sections. But before I go on to discussing this core area of the syllabus, let me connect these areas to the F9 which we have already studied. Now, a lot of you here may have actually got exempted from F9 or you would have forgotten F9 altogether, so you don't have to worry. I'll come on to you people also. I'll come on to dealing with your problems also. But let me just connect you to the F9, that what is it that we have studied at F9 and would actually be applicable in here. So you have already studied the investment appraisal at the F9. You have already studied the investment appraisal at F9. That investment appraisal is actually built up. An advanced level investment appraisal is being examined over here. You have already studied business valuation at F9, and this business valuation is being now added up, and now you actually study the mergers and the acquisitions. You have already studied the sources of finance, and the sources of finance is actually being examined here in the form of corporate reconstruction and the reorganization. You already study the risk management, and that risk management is examined at an advanced level, which is treasury and the advanced risk management, which is actually being examined in here at this AFM level. Now, there is another area of F9 which is the cost of capital. which we have studied at the F9 level, and this cost of capital is actually included in all of these courses. In the advanced investment appraisal, the cost of capital calculations would be important. In the mergers and acquisition, the cost of capital calculations would be important. In the corporate reconstruction and reorganization, the cost of capital calculations would be important. So basically, when we talk about the AFM, it's a build up from F9. It's a build up from F9. And for those of you who are just thinking that we have already forgetting F9, so you don't have to worry about it, because when I have actually recorded these AFM lectures, my recordings of the AFM lectures are the build up from the F9. I start from the scratch, I take you up from the F9 level, and then I take you up. So you don't have to worry, you will have the F9 content. That F9 content is going to build up into the AFM content, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, let's have a bit of a discussion that what are the areas which are included in this advanced investment appraisal, the mergers acquisition, etc., etc., etc. So basically, when we talk about all of this, let's have a bit of a discussion. There's this advanced investment appraisal which is given in here, and you could see that amongst the different techniques, what do we have? We have got the discounted cash flow techniques. What are these discounted cash flow techniques? You've got the NPV, you've got the IRR, you've got the payback, or I would rather say the discounted payback. So you have already studied these techniques of NPV, IRR, discounted payback at the F9 level. These techniques have already been discussed at the F9 level. Now what actually happens is that there is a build up on those techniques. There is a build up on those techniques, and the build up on those techniques is being reflected through the adjusted present value, plus there is this modified internal rate of return, which is another type of calculation. So whenever you have to make a decision whether to invest in a business, whether to invest in a project or not, so you got to have the investment appraisal technique. We would build up from the NPV, IRR, discounted payback techniques that we have already discussed at the F9 level, and we would convert those concepts into the APV, into the MIRR. So the additional concepts are going to be discussed at this stage. That's the first thing that we are going to do. The next thing here is the use of the free cash flows. That is another type of the investment appraisal technique that we would be discussing. Plus, there's this option pricing theory in investment decision. You know what an option is? An option is an instrument that gives you a right to buy or a right to sell something. So at times what happens is that there are real life options that exist. I repeat, at times what happens is there are real life options that exist. So how do we actually incorporate the real life options into our investment appraisal? We are going to discuss this through this option pricing technique, that how do we actually incorporate the option pricing into the investment appraisal. The next part of this is the international investment and financing decisions. So our investment appraisals are not just going to be restricted to the local investments. We are now going to be talking about the international investments over here. So we are now going to be discussing that if you are residing in Europe, and if you got to invest in Middle East, or you got to invest in China, or you got to invest in Australia, or you got to invest in USA, so how would you be dealing with those cash flows? You're residing in Middle East, you got to move into the West Africa. You got to move into the East Africa. So how exactly would you be dealing with those East African, with those West African, with those South African investments? All of this would also be discussed in here. I repeat, all of this would also be discussed in here. So one of the areas with respect to this advanced investment appraisal is that we will be talking about the advanced level techniques of the investment appraisal, and those advanced level techniques of the investment appraisal includes what? The adjusted present value, the MIRR technique, plus in addition to this, we would also be discussing about the international investment appraisal. That is something that we would be discussing about. Now, the second thing. The second thing is that as I told you that you have already studied the business valuation at the F9 level. I repeat, as I told you, You have already studied the business valuation at the F9 level. Now, if you have studied business valuations at the F9 level, what is actually going to happen is that we are going to build up that business valuation concept, and we are going to be talking about mergers and acquisition in here. I repeat, we are going to be talking about the mergers and the acquisitions in here. So what is this mergers and acquisition that we are going to be talking about? We are going to be discussing multiple aspects of mergers and acquisition, not just the valuation, but even the regulatory requirements with respect to the acquisition, plus the financing decision that how should we be financing this mergers and acquisition. So what we are going to be doing in here is that we are not just going to be talking about the business valuation. We would, in addition to the valuation, we would be talking about that what type of companies can be acquired, what are the regulatory requirements that we have to keep in mind. Plus, we would also be discussing that how should we be financing this mergers and acquisition. The next is about the corporate reconstruction and the reorganization. Let me give you a bit of a guidance about this corporate reconstruction and reorganization. There are basically different types of reconstruction. One of them is a financial. What exactly is this financial reconstruction? So whenever you change the capital structure of a business, I repeat, whenever you change the capital structure of the business, so that change in the capital structure of the business is the financial reconstruction. It's the financial reorganization. Maybe you are a 70% geared company, you change your debt into equity, or you convert your equity into debt. You change one form of equity into another form of equity. You convert one form of debt into another form of debt. So there could be multiple type of things that you can do as an entity. So when we talk about the financial reconstruction, what do we mean by financial reconstruction? The financial reconstruction actually means that you change the capital structure of the business, and the objective of changing the capital structure of the business is to optimize the business value, is to enhance the business value, is to make sure that the business is able to achieve its objective in a better manner. Plus, we would also be discussing about the portfolio reconstruction. What exactly do you mean by this portfolio? So the portfolio is your group of investments. I repeat, the portfolio is your group of investments. The investments that you make. Maybe you have invested in a pharma company, you have invested in a logistics company, you have invested in a entertainment company, you have invested in a theme park. There could be multiple type of investments that you as an entity can have. So when you as an entity have got multiple type of investments, so how exactly would we be dealing with those multiple type of investments? That is something that we would be dealing with, and we would be discussing that how we could bring about a change to this investment structure just to make sure that we are able to optimize our business. Just to make sure that we are able to optimize our business. So if I could just discuss up till now, one of them is the investment appraisal, the advanced investment appraisal. The second thing is the mergers and acquisition. The third one of them is the restructuring and the reorganization. And the last one of them is treasury and the risk management. So we have got two types of risk management. One of them is a foreign exchange risk, and the other one of them is an interest rate risk that is part and parcel of this AFM course. You would look at multiple types of derivatives, including the options, including the forwards, the futures, the swaps. So there are different type of derivatives that you would be looking at. I repeat, there are going to be different type of derivatives that you are going to be looking at when it comes to this AFM paper. So it is actually going to be an interesting paper, a very exciting paper to study. And I always say this thing, that if I would have been part and parcel of the ACCA decision making, I would have made this paper mandatory. This paper makes you a complete finance professional. This paper tells you the beauty of finance. No matter you don't apply this finance in your real life, But this is the depth of the finance that every student doing ACCA should actually know. So when we are going to be studying this AFM, when you will be going through the AFM lectures, you would realize one thing, that it's one of those papers that you would fall in love with. It's one of those papers that actually tells you what the real finance is all about. So if I actually tell you how we go about studying this AFM, so let me guide you that when you are going to go on to the Google, there are few students amongst you who have already studied with us, so you know that how we teach. But if you are going to go on to Google and if you are going to search Escribir, you would find this link. You could just click onto this. It's a website which is escribiracademy.com. When you will go on to this website of escribiracademy.com, you could click on this search bar. You could click on the AFM button. So when you click onto this AFM, you would come across the multiple AFM courses that are listed on our website. This course, which is about LR, is pertaining to the course of myself, Luqman Rafiq. So you would click onto it, and when you would have a look at it, you would realize that the lectures in here, they've got almost everything, and every single area has got multiple practice questions. You would see that I have done the WAC. I've discussed the basics of the WAC. I've gone through the practice questions. I've gone through practice questions. Whatever the PQs are, they are the practice questions. The bond yields and the bond valuations discussed, then the practice questions are discussed. Then the investment appraisal basics, the advanced areas of the investment appraisals, so on and so forth, mergers, acquisitions, restructuring and the reorganization, interest rate risk management, currency risk management, etc., etc., etc. So there is a whole lot of courses that are actually, the complete lectures that have been discussed in here. Now, what exactly is our teaching methodology? So generally, what we adopt the teaching methodology. Let me just give you a bit of a guidance about that. Our teaching methodology is that you will get access to pre-recorded lectures. The next classes that I will be discussing about the AFM, I'll be sharing the planner of how this AFM course should be approached. So you'll be getting a planner which is going to give you a bit of a guidance that how the AFM course should be approached. The third thing is that in the previous session, I caught COVID, so I could not do it. I caught COVID and I was literally down and out for 20-25 days. And unfortunately, when I actually recovered, there were a lot of things that were piled up, so I could not do the weekly or the fortnightly live sessions. But here, we're going to be having the weekly live sessions. Those weekly live sessions could turn into fortnightly live sessions also, depending upon you as a student. If the students are not going to follow the planner, then they might become a fortnightly session. But these sessions would be based on purely queries. I'm not going to be teaching anything in there. They're probably going to be only queries, queries, and queries pertaining to whatever the issues that you have with respect to the topics that we have defined in the planner. You will be part and parcel of a WhatsApp group. You will be part and parcel of a WhatsApp group where there is going to be a two-way communication. It's not just me who can communicate. It's not just me. It's you plus your peers. Everyone could communicate. Then we would have live revision in the last month before exams. It's gonna be 3 to 5 days depending upon the need, depending upon the momentum. So minimum 3 days, maximum 5 days. That's what the live revision session is going to be. And what we do is that we charge a fee of USD 150, and presently there is a 20% discount available. So you could get enrolled for USD 120 for the time being. For those of you who are interested in getting in touch with me, you could WhatsApp me on this number. And for those of you who want to get in touch with the Scriber's admin, I'm going to list down this number. You could get in touch with the admin on this number, which is 66664442. So basically, this is what is it all about. And the agenda and the objective of this orientation session was to take you through the AFM syllabus and guide you what the AFM syllabus is all about and the teaching methodology and the approach that we would be adapting. In case if you have got any questions, you may ask, you may unmute yourself, you may write down in the chat window. I'll be happy to answer. So anything that you would like to do, whether you want to do write down the questions on the chat. Yes, Imran, how can I help you? Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. I'm good. Mhm. Yes, there are notes. There are notes available. If you would go on to the portal, if you would go on to the portal, let me just see. Wait. Uh, 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 uh. Okay, no, he hasn't uploaded it. Yeah, here it is. The study material. Yeah, these are good enough. These are good enough. You can download this. Yeah, this is okay. Okay, yeah, good that you have highlighted. Let me just give you a bit of a guidance that the SBL part, the connection of SBL with the AFM, what exactly is that? See, when you are investing, it's not just the financial factors that you consider. You consider non-financial factors also. That what competitors are there, what political aspects are there that needs to be considered. So you do consider multiple things when you invest. So the concept of the relationship between SBL and AFM is that the non-financial aspects of your decisions, whether that be acquisition decision, whether that be investment decision, whether that be a restructuring decision. So that is something that needs to be covered up. And believe me, that it is not that difficult. Believe me, it is not that difficult. It's quite manageable. It's not difficult. It's quite manageable. So you don't have to worry about it. Okay, anyone else having any other queries, please? Yeah, anyone else? Yeah, please do ask in case if you have got any questions, please. Okay, yeah, sure. From next week, inshallah. From next week.